I was 22 the first time I saw a starling murmuration with my own eyes. I was living in Rome and spending my evenings watching the sunset over the city in the orange tree garden. That night, a profound quiet descended as everyone turned their eyes upward to watch the thousands of flighted bodies careening through the air in a frenetic, synchronous ballet. I asked a woman nearby why the birds were flying that way. "C'è un falco," she said, pointing, but I couldn't see the hawk. I learned later that this kind of flocking is called scale-free correlation, a complex process of communication and attunement whereby each bird observes and reacts to the 7 closest bodies, allowing the flock to make near instantaneous shifts in velocity and direction. These movements are governed collectively by all the attuning bodies at once and allows information to travel across the flock with almost no degradation, meaning birds on one end of the flock can respond to what others are sensing on the opposite side nearly instantly. There's a sophistication to this sort of sensing and communication that escapes the reach of current instinct-oriented science. What we do know is that when scale-free correlation is an act of predation evasion, it is immensely successful. I was 7 the first time I saw my father's violence move against my mother with my own eyes. It was the middle of the night. I could hear their muffled voices, so I crept from my bed and down the carpeted stairs. From the landing, I could see the shadows of their bodies moving across the wall. When my mother emerged through the kitchen doorway, it was not of her own will. My father's thick fingers were around her neck, and in his other hand, the flash of something black and metal that I knew to be afraid of, though I had never seen a gun before. The sounds from my mother's throat entered my body like lightning, and I ran to my bed and trembled until I fell asleep. The research that I did this summer theorizes predation evasion-induced scale-free correlation as a trans-species process of atmospheric attunement that resists violence. In order to theorize this, we need to start by understanding family as a continual process of socialization, whereby the domestic world is produced reiteratively through habitualized behavior. So family members occupy seemingly stable identities with recognizable duties and roles and consistent scripts with which to play those out. In this way, cohering around routine is useful for a family because it minimizes cognitive load and allows the family to create passive least resistance along which to collectively move. But for a family organized around domestic violence, this kind of habitualization can lead the family to become acclimatized to and constrained by routines that permit and subsume violence. It becomes necessary then for a family hoping to resist or evade violence to break these routines and learn how to improvise. A single family member breaking from routine to intervene in a moment of violence, though, is not enough. This action often leads not to de-escalation, but rather to that person becoming the new target of violence. Instead, I argue that successful improvisation is only possible through collective atmospheric attunement. In this kind of response, every family member responds collectively, attuning to gesture, language, sense, and affect, and improvising as a group to de-escalate and shift the trajectory of the event. This is not unlike what we've observed with flocking birds. Birds whose collective movements are governed by individual reflex mechanisms lead to the peeling off of birds at the border of the flock in response to a predator attack, leaving those birds at risk. But birds like starlings, whose movements are governed by scale-free correlation, minimize risk for all individuals by creating trajectories of movement that keep even birds at the edge of the flock safe. To reflect upon my experiences growing up in a home marked by violence is often to remember the many moments my family failed to act, to move, to intervene, to resist. These are the moments when the predator was not evaded, and these were often moments of individualization, moments of turning in instead of tuning out. Successful evasion happened when, as a family, we paid attention to all the physical and affective stimuli put forth by others and made near instantaneous improvisational adjustments. The quick flexing and contracting of muscles, the repacing of breath and speech, changes in vocal tone, shifts in space. My research shows that the atmospherically attuned family can do things discrete family members acting alone cannot. And this is what predation evasion-induced scale-free correlation is really about. It makes it so that it isn't necessary to see the hawk. It's only necessary to be attuned to the body that does.